Hello Warfighters, War is Hell. Welcome to a brand new episode of Top 5 Arma 3. In this episode, I'm not going to be looking at mods, but I'm going to be sharing with you guys my top 5 Arma 3 tips for finding the right Milsim unit. The reason why I want to go over this is I feel like it's not talked about enough. While there are a lot of videos that are out there about how to join a Milsim unit, I don't think too many people talk about finding the right fit for you. So those are the things I'm going to touch on. Yes, I will be sharing with you guys a little bit of information about how to join a Milsim unit, but that's not going to be the core focus of this video. I'm going to try to make sure I tailor this to not only people who are new to Arma, but also those who've been playing Arma 3 Milsim for a very long time. Those of us who are veterans at the genre know that Milsims disband. There could be just differences of opinion and you want to look elsewhere for another group. There's a lot of reasons why people who have been playing the game for a long time might need to look elsewhere. So again, I'll try and make this as broad as possible and make it work for everybody. Now, when I started doing Arma 3 Milsim, there was a couple things that made me want to start playing this type of gameplay. First off, somebody told me, and they were right, that if you really want to get good at Arma 3, you need to join a Milsim unit because they'll introduce you to some of the more deeper concepts of the game. You'll also get a chance to see how military tactics can be used in the game to just try and enhance your experience. Again, they were right. But the biggest draw for me was just making sure that I was playing in a type of game mode that had a lot of great teamwork. And it just sounded fascinating that everybody's logging onto the same server, working together for a common objective. Now, that has been fantastic, but when we're talking about teamwork, again, making sure that you're with the right group is going to be the difference between whether or not you have a good or positive Arma 3 Milsim experience. So, wanted to share with you guys what I have learned along the way, some of the things that I would be doing if I was in a position where I was looking for an Arma 3 Milsim unit right now. I will give the disclaimer, there are probably some things I'm going to say in here that might be a little controversial or some people might not necessarily like hearing, but again, I just want to be very honest with you guys on how I would go about doing this and share with you some of my experience. So that being said, let's go ahead and get to tip number 5. For tip number 5, you need to know where to find Milsim units. Obviously, if you're trying to find the right group for you, you need to know what groups you can even choose from. And I'll admit, there is no way for a person to know every single Arma 3 Milsim unit that is out there and active right now, but the places I'm going to be sharing with you are the most active and most effective ways to find Arma 3 groups. Now, I didn't find all this information by myself. I want to say thank you to Wolf for sharing some information with me. You know, one of the things that he does just for fun is some marketing research on Arma 3 recruiting, and he provided me some good information that I wasn't able to find out myself. So I can't take all the credit for everything I'm going to share with you right here. Since I'm going to be talking about specific places on the internet, though, I'll make sure in the description below that I will put links to some of these places so you don't have to go search for them yourselves. You can just click the link, go right to where you need to go. Okay, so I will tell you too that things have changed a lot since I started doing Arma 3 Milsim, but I think things have gotten better as time has gone on because now there are multiple ways to find groups, but it's still condensed into a few different places. So rather than having so many different places to go to try and get what little bits of information that you can about groups, you just need to go to a few places to get everything that you need. So the first place I'm going to share with you is on Steam. So on the Arma 3 community, there's a discussion called Looking for Squad Clan Group. And in that particular discussion, people will make posts saying, hey, I'm looking for a group. Sometimes they'll add some information about what they're looking for. And then recruiters from Arma 3 units will just reply to them, a lot of times with a copy and paste, just sharing information about the group. I personally like this because I prefer just reading about stuff at my own leisure, and I think it also reflects the reality of Arma 3 Milsim, where units need players more than players need units. So it's basically these units are trying to fight for you specifically. I like that. Now, one of the things that Wolf shared with me is the time that you make your post is really important because if you want the most amount of responses, you're going to want to make your post on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. The theory that Wolf has about that is that's when a lot of units will be doing operations. They'll kind of be in Milsim mode, and either before or after an operation, they'll go through and they'll start responding to posts. It's really Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You want to avoid that because, again, you're not going to have as many responses during that period. Again, pretty important. Now, it seems like that how you make your post is going to be important, so I'm going to touch on that actually in a future section here. But Arma 3's discussion on Steam seems to be one of my favorites and is definitely the most active place to go. Another great place to take a look at is on Reddit. There is a subreddit called rFindAUnit where not only will people make posts about what they're looking for, but also units will make posts themselves, just little advertisements. If you're not the kind of person who likes to make a post and have people try and fight for you, then you can kind of go through that section and read up on some of the different units that are out there that are making active posts on Reddit. Again, you can read about the unit. They provide, in a lot of cases, some detailed information. So it's just a great way to peruse some different groups. But again, you're not going to have as many groups as you will on Steam, which, while I think Reddit is helpful, again, Steam is my favorite place to go to try and find out more about groups. Another great place to go along the same lines as Reddit, trying to find out groups, is on Discord. Arma 3, for example, has a section where different groups can post about themselves. In fact, there's a lot of different Arma 3 community-related Discords that allow for certain allow for a certain channel for units to post advertisements about themselves in. It's a great way, again, to just try and see what else is out there. I prefer personally, though, on my Discord not to allow for people to do recruitment, just because somebody might say, hey, I'm new to Arma, and units will just jump on that person, and it might not necessarily be the best fit. I don't allow it in my Discord, but I know a lot of other people do. So if you are in Discord servers that are related to Arma 3 in some way, take a look, see if there's any information that's in there. Another great place to go is, it used to be called Arma Clans, but now it's called Clans List. This used to be huge when it came to trying to find Arma 3 Milsim units, but it's not nearly what it used to be. The one thing that I will say for Clans List is, as you're going through and you're searching for Arma 3 units, the people who are at the top pay for that spot. And so units that are well established and have kind of been around for a while, obviously are going to pay for those posts. So you know that, the ones that you're going to see closer to the top are larger Milsim units. Again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on, but at least you kind of know those groups are active, because if nobody's playing, they shouldn't be paying for advertising, basically, in their spots. One place that I will mention that is not a location on the internet is obviously word of mouth. That is something that is really important when it comes to finding a group. And even after you find a group, let's say on Steam, that you really, really like, if you know anybody in the Arma 3 Milsim community, it's still great to ask questions either about that group specifically or any other groups that might not be posting on Steam. The reason why is people are going to be pretty honest with you, those that you know anyway. Obviously, you want to be pretty careful if the person that you're talking to is like a recruiter for that unit. Again, I'll talk more about this a little bit later on. But groups get reputations, and a lot of times that reputation gets passed through the Arma 3 community, and sometimes you'll learn something about a group that you might not have known from any of these other places that I told you that would be helpful in determining a little bit more about a unit, or again, a group you might not have heard of in any of these different places. So hopefully that helps you. I know I went through a lot right there about where you can go to try and find groups, but I highly recommend taking a look at these places if you're wanting to try to find the right group for you. For tip number 4, I have, before you even start thinking about committing to a Milsim unit, you really need to think about what type of Milsim experience you want to have and what type of Milsim unit you want to join. Obviously, as you start getting all of these responses to your posts from different Milsim units, you need to have some way to filter out what's going to work for you and what is not going to work for you. Now, this is a challenge for a lot of people because of all the things that you do need to take into consideration. As you can imagine, this is especially difficult for people who are brand new to Arma 3 Milsim because they don't know all of the different things that Arma 3 Milsim can offer them. I feel bad sometimes when people go to my videos and they say, hey, you know what, that looks awesome, that is what I want to do, and they don't know about all of these other opportunities that they may find more enjoyable than what I do, because everybody's going to have a different opinion on what is great Arma 3 Milsim. For example, here are some of the things that you need to take into consideration. One, I call it the Arma 3 Milsim spectrum of realism. So on the one side, you've got groups that really take realism to the extreme, where people are required to call others by their name and rank outside of the game, where you may be called to attention in TeamSpeak, and if an officer comes in and you cannot speak until they tell you to speak, you might get disciplined if you're not using comms correctly. Whereas on the other side, you have this really casual experience. There is no standardized kit that people need to take. It's basically a free-for-all in the arsenal. There is no leadership. There is no real plan of action. It's just, hey, we're going to send a bunch of guys your way, and it's your job to take them out. Not saying that either side is right or wrong, but obviously you need to take into consideration what type of experience do you want to have? Where on that spectrum of realism and casual do you want to be, and what sounds fun to you? Also, you need to take into consideration what type of role do you want to have in a Milsim unit. There are people like me who just want to be the lowly grunt on the ground that's pew-pewing all day. However, you have people who really strive to have leadership positions. You have others who want to take very specialized roles, like a medic or a pilot, for example. Those types of things you need to think about. Is there a particular role that I want to be a part of? Is there a specific country that you're wanting to play as? And if so, is there a branch that you want to play as within that country's armed forces? For example, I love playing as the United States Marine. I just think the Marine Corps is a great group to play as. And so if I were to be choosing a Milsim unit right now, that is something that I would be looking at. Also, you need to think about what type of time commitment you can offer up to a Milsim unit. Obviously, units are going to require different things as far as attendance, what type of training that you need to do, and making sure that you know how much time you can commit to a group is important. At the same time, and I think this might be the last thing to really take into consideration as some of the core things, but what type of Milsim is it that you want to do? It's not just all what you see on my channel. For example, you have groups like Star Sim, which is all about sci-fi Milsim. You could play as a clone trooper in Star Wars, or you could play as an ODST in Halo. You've got historical types of Milsim, which could range anywhere from Vietnam to World War II to the Cold War. You've even got a bunch of different types of subgenres within modern day Milsim. You could play as a real military unit that tries to focus on real geopolitical issues that are happening today. You could play as a fictional unit that has a more open story. There's just a lot of stuff that you need to take into consideration. But the important thing for this tip is that you know what it is that you want to do and what type of experience that you want to have. So that way, again, you can narrow down what type of unit will be best for you. Tip number 3 is all about when you're starting to get information from Milsim units, knowing what that they're trying to tell you is important and what you want to be on the lookout for. So let's take this as an example. Let's say you've gone ahead, you've made the decision about what type of Milsim unit you want to join or what type of experience that you want to have, and you've made your post on Steam or Reddit. You're going to start getting responses from Milsim units, and usually they're pretty long responses. They copy and paste it from one post to the next, but there's going to be a lot of stuff in there that they want you to know about them. Well, what information in there is really important? And I think this goes beyond just you want to make sure that what they're saying matches what type of Milsim unit or experience you want to have. So take, for example, what I mentioned in the previous point. One of the things that you need to decide is what type of time commitment you want to give to a unit. A lot of units will mention what time their operations are, how many operations are required for you to attend each week or month, how long these operations are, and this type of stuff is important to take a look at, not just making sure that the time commitment matches what you want, but to make sure that it's a good fit. I've come across people who have applied to join a Milsim unit, but they live literally on the other side of the world, and op times are 3 o'clock in the morning for them. I know very few people who would play Arma 3 Milsim at 3 o'clock in the morning their time. Now, obviously, there are some people that's going to work for them, but a majority, it's not. So you need to see what type of time zone that they operate in. This is what I'm talking about, like more detail than just making sure that it all fits. But here's some other things that I think is important to take a look for. What is the size of the unit? You don't necessarily want to join a unit that just has 4 people in it. Maybe you want to do something a little bit larger than that. Maybe you want to do something smaller than an 80-person unit. I'll talk a little bit about that more here down the line. But I think it is important because that's really going to influence the type of operations that they're going to have. I know from experience that larger Milsim units, like where you have 60 or 80 people who are joining every single op, it tends to be not as good of an experience, because when you have that many people, you're not going to have a good relationship with everybody around you, just because it's difficult to have a relationship with 80 people who get together for maybe 2 to 3 hours a week. At the same time, too, you might have performance issues. The types of operations might be very limited. I know that with units that I've been a part of that have gotten larger, it's become, all right, another week of us trying to capture this large town. So just go in there and clear it out. Whereas you've got smaller units that have more flexibility in the type of operations that they do. I mean, personally, I find the Milsim units that are best are anywhere between 12 to 24 people in size. That way you've got a good amount of people that you can get to know. Everybody is familiar, like you know who people are based off of their voice at that point. You know who leadership is, they know you. The missions are pretty flexible. I mean, there's just a lot of things that really go into making sure that the size of the unit is something that you take into consideration. How long has the unit been around? If you join a community that's been around for 3 years, then you usually have a group that knows how their server is supposed to run, who's got a culture that's already in place. They likely have training all ready to go, whereas a group that might have started up 2 weeks ago might be somebody's first rodeo, and it might not be the best Arma 3 Milsim experience that you're going to have. What is the age limit? I think that's important for a lot of people who come across the channel and in my Discord who ask about a Milsim unit. I know people have asked specifically, hey, does anybody know any 14 plus Milsim units that are out there? I mean, I know that a lot of Milsim units usually have a 16 plus or an 18 plus age requirement. So you need to make sure that the group that you're taking a look at matches the age requirement for you. I should point out with that if you are concerned about an age requirement, put that in your post, so that way units who are coming by might pass over you if you're not going to fit. Now, one of the things that I found out when I made my post is, again, not everybody reads what you put on there, and they're not as concerned about the fit, but just go ahead, put that in there, because some people might pass you by and you'll have a higher chance of finding the right group for you. Another thing that I think is important to be on the lookout for is whether or not DLC is required for the unit. I just know people who have joined Arma 3 Milsim for the first time after buying Arma 3, not getting any DLC, and then getting blindsided later with, oh, by the way, you need to buy Apex, or you need to buy Contact. And that $25 surprise purchase or whatever it is really not a good way to start off a relationship. So hopefully units are being pretty transparent about whether or not DLC is required to join the unit. There's some other things too that aren't as specific. For example, I do like reading through some of the information about the unit. Hopefully there's some information about what their focuses are, like if they offer role play or what type of Milsim unit that they are when it comes to that spectrum of realism. Hopefully there's going to be signs in some of the text about what type of unit that they are. Some of the things I don't think is important is historical background on the unit. For example, I know people will put so-and-so division was first started during World War II and has a long history. It's like blah, blah, blah. That personally doesn't matter to me, because that has no impact on how this unit is going to be run, what type of Milsim experience that they offer, just things like that. So just be careful about the things that are in there. Don't get distracted by stuff that isn't important, but hopefully this gives you a good guide on things to look out for to make sure that the group is going to be right for you. Now that we are at tip number 2, I think this is where some of the hot takes are going to begin to flow, but I am obviously going to try to select my words carefully. I want to be honest with you, but I don't want to ruffle any feathers or try and say anything too negative. But with that being said, this particular tip is going to be about making sure that you do research on the unit beyond the information that's just given to you. So let's say that you've gone ahead, you've made the determination of what Milsim that you want, you've started making those posts, you've gotten the responses, you've gone through them, and you're like, you know what, these groups look good. And let's say you find one that really stands out, And it says something along the lines of, we are a British Milsim unit with military experience. We are British time zone friendly. We're looking for tank gunners to join our ranks. We're one of the fastest growing Milsims in Arma 3, having doubled our numbers within the last month. To sign up, go here. All right, so it's got everything, let's just say, that you want. Now, you join it, and you come to find out that Colonel Fritz McChickens has created Her Royal Majesty's SEAL Team 6 division. And the reason why it's one of the fastest growing Milsims, doubling its numbers in the last month, is because it's gone from 2 to 4 after his brother made a secondary account and he recruited one of his friends from 6th grade. Okay, really not necessarily what you want. He may have aspirations to start an air wing next week too, but again, this may not be what you were on the lookout for. And I think a lot of this just stems from the fact that you really need to be careful with what some of the recruiters say, just because you need to know the background on some of their intentions. This is what I really need to be careful with what I'm saying here, and hopefully that all makes sense. I feel like that there are a number of Arma 3 units who measured their success solely by the number of people that are in the unit. They don't measure success necessarily with how much fun that the group is having or the quality of the missions that are being created, but again, it's about the numbers. And so these units will create incentives for their recruiters to just try and bring as many people in as possible without taking into consideration whether or not you and that group is going to be a good fit. They figure, well, we can weed them out later if that's not going to be the case. The ways that I've seen this is I know that there are units that will offer monetary incentives to their recruiters. Something along the lines of whoever brings in the most recruits this month will get a $50 gift card to Best Buy or to Steam or whatever. Or a lot more units will offer points towards promotion if you bring somebody into the unit. And I know that there are some people who care a lot about their rank in Arma 3. Personally, I don't care. But again, that drives some people. And so they'll go out and they'll recruit like nothing else so they can be promoted to sergeant or whatever the next in line is going to be for them. Again, not taking into consideration whether or not the match is going to be beneficial for both sides. Personally, units that do a selection process that might come back and say, hey, we don't think that it's necessarily a good fit, I think that's just absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I can imagine that the rejection is hard, but it's probably coming from a good position if that's what ends up coming that way. And I guess it makes it even more rewarding if you do make it through that process. So how can you go about doing this research on these groups? Well, there's a number of ways. So first off, I think the easiest and probably one of the best ways is to take a look to see if that unit has anything on YouTube or Twitch. I know a lot of Milsim units will have people who stream the operations, and since you should know what times that they operate, you could take a look on Twitch, see if anything is being broadcast for that particular group, or you can go on YouTube, search that particular unit's name, and see if anything pops up. Here's some of the information you can get from a stream or YouTube video that could be helpful. How many people are really attending the operation? Group might say we have 60 plus members, but only 12 are showing up. Where does this unit fall on that spectrum of realism and casual? You should be able to find that out based off of how they work together and what type of interactions they have with each other. How are the players treated? Is there anybody who kind of stands out as being picked on for being new, or is it a really friendly environment? You can also see what type of operations that they do. Is there role play involved in any of it? Or is there just similar types of missions where it's, again, clearing buildings all day and stuff like that? How long are the operations? I mean, there's just a lot you can figure out about the unit. It gives you a good external view. And I like the way that Wolf kind of put this, is that you need to have not only just an internal view of the unit, which you're going to get from the recruiter, but you also need to have that external view. So this is a great way to be able to observe how the unit is by just watching their operations. Another big important thing, and this is a point from Wolf, is paying attention to how these units recruit. For example, how much information did the unit give you about how they operate? How much transparency was there from the beginning? One of the big turnoffs for me, and one of the things that would just make me not want to join a unit, is somebody who says, hey, I'm just going to add you on Steam. not tell me anything about the group. Like, if they're not willing to put any information into telling you about the unit first and allowing you to make a decision, that's not something that's going to stand out. Same thing too with how much information that they give you about the unit. Are there some things that just don't match up with what they have told you? Another thing on there is, what are some of the introductory conversations like? So when you say, hey, I'm interested in the unit, do they just say, hey, I'm going to turn you over to this person and they'll get you signed up? Or are they going to have like a real conversation with you and try to get to know you? Like, are they, really concerned with making sure that the people who end up joining the group are going to have a good time? Or are you just going to be a number? What kind of training do they offer? Like, if you're brand new to Arma 3, are they willing to walk you through some of the basics of it? Or are they just going to basically have you try and figure out as you go along, which can be a really big challenge for some people. So how they recruit you, I think, is going to be really important to understand how the unit's going to operate. Another thing you could do is you could just join their Discord. I know a lot of units have Discord and lurk. As you sit there and lurk, you could find out what the unit's culture is like. How do they interact with each other? You could see whether or not that they are super realistic, outside of Arma 3 too. And again, that might appeal to some people, maybe it doesn't. You can get an idea of the group based off of what happens in Discord after an operation. What is the mood like? I've seen Milsim units who after operations are like, well, that sucked. And that's not necessarily the group I want to join. Or does like leadership come out and say, hey, we did a really great job today, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming here. This is such a fun experience. What a great mission. Thank you, Zeus, for putting it together. That type of stuff. The last thing is ask around about the reputation of a unit. Arma 3 Milsim has a very small community, I feel like, or a very tight-knit community is kind of the better way to put it. As military or Milsim organizations continue to grow, or the longer that they last, they really start to build a reputation and make connections with other people. So if you already know individuals in the Arma 3 community, chances are there's somebody who's going to have another perspective of a unit. That would be important to take into consideration. So again, do research on that unit for all of those reasons. I think it'll help you make sure that you're having the correct fit or the type of fit that you would want to have with a Milsim unit. Now, for what I think is going to be the biggest hot take of this entire episode, tip number 1 on how to find the right Milsim unit for you: know when to pack your bags, move on, and find a new group. Now, I don't want to be negative about this, but at the end of the day, this is a game that we're playing. It's not like we've actually been conscripted into the military and have to play with the same group for X number of years. There's applications for this for people who are new to Arma and those who have played Arma for some time. For example, if you're new to Arma, let's say that your group says that they're going to get you trained up on how to play the game. They don't do that. They're missing out on their commitments to you. You're not necessarily being treated well. People might be picking on you because you're new to the game. I really don't see that, by the way. But just using some examples here, I can tell you that's not the group that you want to be in. Don't think that that is what Arma 3 Milsim is going to be about. Leave, try and find a new group. The thing that's nice about the tips that I've given you is tips 2, 3, 4, and 5. You could rinse and repeat that as many times as you need to. For people who have been in Arma 3 Milsim for some time, there's definitely applications of this particular tip to make sure that you're in the right group, because as groups evolve and as they age, they change. People come and go. There might be new initiatives. The size of the group might increase, and that changes how operations are done. Again, you've got a choice. And those who have been in Arma 3 Milsim for some time have an idea of what they want and can go out and find that, usually someplace else. It's easier for them to find what it is that they want. The two things that are important here is that you make sure that you leave the right way. Don't just say, hey, I'm out, or don't leave in a fury of anger. I think that if you're going to be leaving a group to try and find some other group out there, you at least provide constructive feedback on why it is that you're leaving. And I think units should be supportive of people making that change and also be willing to listen to what they have to say. There really is power in listening to detractors, trying to find common issues or what's driving people to look elsewhere from the group. I think everybody who does Milsim really does want to have a good experience with a good group of people, and if somebody can provide you information on how to be better, you should take that into consideration. And I know it could be hard to come to the point where you make the realization, hey, it's time to go. I know I've stayed with some groups longer than I should have, just hoping that things would change, hoping that I could influence some type of change to make things better or to try to get things back to how they were, but I'm not able to do that. I think there should be some effort made to try and influence change, but it shouldn't be something that you're stuck with for a long time. You shouldn't be at the point where you dread signing on to play the game or to be around certain people. Again, if it's not the right fit for you, that's fine. Try and find somewhere else. I kind of liken it to marriage. The first person that you date isn't always the person that you're going to marry. In fact, in a lot of cases, that first person that you date is not going to be the person that you end up marrying. Just like that first group that you find in Arma 3 Milsim likely is not going to be the best group that's out there for you. The only way you're going to know that, though, is to give it an honest shot and then come to the understanding that, hey, this isn't working out. It's time to go. So I'll let you know that I have been in the position where I have been with Milsim units for maybe just a couple operations and then decided, you know what, this really isn't the group for me. And I've never regretted that because I have ended up finding the right group later on. In fact, in one situation where I did end up leaving a group, it allowed me to start to get to know one of the members a little bit more as I was providing my own feedback, and we ended up becoming friends after that. So there are positive experiences that you can have outside of just finding the right group by recognizing when it is time to leave the unit. I think as long as everybody is respectful about making that transition, that they're open, honest, providing feedback, and groups understand that sometimes it's just not personal, it's just not a good match, I think it's a healthy thing. And I think people should really do that until they find the group that's right for them, or at least they find an experience that was better than what they had before. All right, so hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that didn't ruffle feathers. That is going to be this list. Hopefully this does get some people set up on success to finding the right group that's out there for them, because that really does make or break the experience in Arma 3 Milsim, is the people that you surround yourself with and the experience that you have. I enjoy the people I play with. I consider them really close friends, and I do love the Arma 3 Milsim community. There are fantastic groups that are out there, and sometimes the best groups are the hardest to find. So hopefully these tips will help you find that group for you. I really do appreciate you guys coming by. Again, hope that this helps. Want to give a big thanks to everybody who's watched this all the way through. You guys know that helps out a lot. Biggest thanks goes to everybody at Patreon, though, for supporting me and allowing me to make this type of content. Their name should be showing up on the screen, and if you want your name to show up there too, or if you want to support me in the same way that they do, just go ahead and check the description below. You will find a link to Patreon there. But anyway, thanks again for watching. War is hell. You don't have to worry, because Warfighters, I've got your six.